Listen to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
It is Wednesday, May 15th.
Go Blues.
Was that hard to say?
It was a little weird. Yeah. Yeah, my dear Red Wings, who did not make the playoffs again. But I can root for the Blues. It's fine. They're doing really well. This is exciting. And I actually have a blue shirt, which...
I have a blue shirt
I know,
on.
I saw that. I'm really proud of you.
This is totally by accident.
Oh, don't say that. I'm not proud of you anymore.
It's my backup KFUO shirt. Apparently, you know when you go to the gym and you bring your clothes with you?
Did you forget your clothes again?
No, I didn't forget them. You pull a shirt out and it has a giant stain on the front of it. Like, how did that get on there? It wasn't on there when I packed it, I promise. When you have the backup shirt in the office to switch to.
Well, at least it's blue.
And it's KFUO.
And it's KFUO.
Yeah. So we've got... No one cares about what shirt I'm wearing today. But what they do care about is what we have on deck today. Meet the missionary, and we get to meet one of our local churches. Mm-hmm. Child of God Lutheran Church and School in St. Peters, Missouri is our KFUO Church of the Week. You've probably been hearing the announcements throughout the week. And so we get to meet Pastor Gorline and learn a little bit more about Child of God Lutheran Church and School. They do some really cool stuff there with the school and serving the community, particularly reaching families with children. So we'll learn more about that in the second half. Up first, we get to meet the missionary. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. You can find out more about them at cuw.edu. In studio with us this morning, Alyssa Anders. She's serving the Lord in Russia. Good morning, Alyssa.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Thank you for being our guest. And I know that it's always kind of busy when missionaries come back to the building for a reconnect and trying to manage about, 12 meetings in less than a few hours. So thank you so much for making time for us, because we love hearing your story and learning about how the Lord used a number of things to bring you to this mission field. Mm-hmm. So share with us your story of becoming a missionary. What led up to Alyssa Anders being a missionary?
Well, I think I could probably take about 3 hours or possibly 3 days or 3 weeks to explain that whole story. But
so we'll tell it in like the first 10 minutes here, and then the rest will be premium content.
Okay. Well, or I can just give you the Spark Notes version.
There you go.
I guess I grew up in a family that really emphasized service, so that was nothing new to me. But I always thought like the idea of being a missionary was just kind of intimidating. We would read these biographies of, people living in mud huts or Gladys Aylward, going out by herself on the train to China and like having no idea what to expect when she got there. And I just thought, well, that's not for me. Like I'm not brave enough, or I don't like mud huts enough to be willing to do that. But then my oldest brother is actually also a missionary, but he is a pilot, and he found an organization where he could serve as a pilot, but he's still called a missionary. So it's a mission organization, but he uses the gifts that God gave him and the talents and the interests that he has to serve God. So instead of pursuing his own career, he just decided to use those gifts to serve God. And that really inspired me. And so I really love teaching. I'm an English teacher. I've taught English as a second language for about 10 years now. And I thought, what, this is something that God's given me, gifts and talents. Why don't I just use those to serve God? Mm-hmm. And that was actually right at the time when I was going through this whole mental process of, trying to decide what I wanted to do with my degree in teaching English, that my pastor gave me an email he had received that said, the LCMS is looking for English teachers. Like, literally, that's what it said. I said, well, I don't know if I need more of a sign than that. So I applied, and right away they got back to me and said, if you're seriously interested, here's the application process, and we need your application by the end of the week. And long story short, I became a missionary in 2015, I think is when I went to orientation. And I've been overseas for about 3.5 years now. Yeah, I think 3.5 years. So that's the short version of the story.
Thanks, older brother.
I know, right?
Tell us about the people you serve.
I'm serving as the other host here said, I'm serving in St. Petersburg, Russia, and I'm working with the Ingrian Lutheran Church, which is a partner church of the LCMS. And I serve through teaching English. So I teach English at the seminary. They have a small seminary there to train pastors. And I also do different outreach classes with the churches in the city. So we, try to bring people into the church by English clubs and different things like this, and get them share the news about the Lutheran Church and about God and about His love for us, by getting people in through English classes. The Ingrian Church is really a fascinating place to work. I love working with them because it's really it's a new church body. It's a growing church body. They were, of course, very much repressed during communism, so they've really had to build up a lot of their congregation, a lot of their theological education, a lot of their youth programs, and all this kind of stuff. It's really only, I guess you could say, like 25 years since they've been a church body. So they need all the help they can get. They get a lot of support from the LCMS, also from different churches around the world, and I'm really excited to be a part of that and to see them growing. They are growing, and help them in whatever ways I can and I'm able.
Yeah, that is really cool. I know we've just a few people that we've been able to talk to about the Ingrian Lutheran Church.
Yeah.
There's so many cool things happening with it, though.
Yeah.
How important is language learning, English language learning, to these people?
Oh, that's a really good question. I did not really realize this. You don't really realize this growing up in America, but English is the international language. So if you are a businessman, if you are in medicine, if you're a lawyer, whatever field you're in, if you don't speak English, you're really limited in what you have access to. So for the pastors in Russia, it's important for them to speak English so that they can. There's so many more books that are translated, either written in English or translated into English, that they wouldn't have access to if they didn't speak English. Also, like, if they want to participate in any kind of international conferences with other Lutheran brothers, so like if they want to go to Sweden or Germany, or have any other contact with confessional Lutherans, they really have to be able to speak English in order to be able to have that communication and have those contacts, because all those conferences are done in English. So it's really a professional language for them, and it's so they can continue their education, so they can study theology, so they can have other contacts. Otherwise, they're just very isolated as a church, as like a very small Lutheran Russian church. So it helps them to not be so isolated.
So if you meet someone in the community, tell us about interacting in the community, especially when you share with them that you're a Lutheran. Do you get like you mentioned it being such a small church, yet a growing church. Do you get the strange looks, what's a Lutheran?
Oh, absolutely. So the official religion, I guess, or the unofficial official religion in Russia is Orthodoxy, Russian Orthodoxy. So most people are familiar with Christianity at some level. They're not so familiar with Lutheranism. In fact, a lot of people view us as a cult because we're just not Orthodox. Actually, the Russian word for Orthodox is pravoslavny, which means right worshippers. So they think they're the ones who got it right. They've got the correct way of doing it, and everyone else is just kind of off doing something strange. So we do get strange looks, like when we tell people we're Lutheran, and they ask, what do you guys even believe? And so we start with, okay, we believe the Nicene Creed, triune God. We worship Jesus Christ who died for our sins. Like, these are the same things that the Orthodox more or less believe and focus on too. So we try to, just emphasize that we're not crazy. We are Christians. But then also, our emphasis on grace and that faith comes only through grace alone. But there is a little bit of weirdness, I guess you could say, when you meet Russians and tell them that you're a Lutheran. But I mean, that kind of adds to the fun of it. Adds a little spice into our life.
Tell us a story of someone you've gotten to know since you've been there. We have just about 2.5 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's not a lot of time, but just pick out one person that you've gotten to know, befriended in your time there.
Okay. Can I tell you about a class? Can I tell you about a group of people instead?
Sure.
Okay, so we have English Club at a church called St. Anne's. And English Club is a lot of fun. So we usually pick some theme, and then we play games. We have a discussion for like half an hour, and then we play games for half an hour. And just really random, eclectic group of people come to this thing. But there are about, I'd say 5 or 6 that come regularly every week. Then there's always newcomers, and then there's always the weird people. But that's not part of the fun of it. But the last class, there's
adventures.
I won't go into that too much. The last class we had before I came back to the States, we actually had a discussion about. Usually, it's not like overtly religious. Like they know I'm a Christian, and I do answer questions as a Christian, but we don't usually talk about religious subjects because most of them are not Christian. We had a discussion about God, like, who is God? What do you think God is? And it was really interesting to me to see the answers of the people who came regularly. One of them is she kind of looks like a goth, maybe emo, whatever the Russian version of emo is. But she's like, I'm really interested in God and find out who he is. She's actually attending the courses that the church provides on like basics of the Christian faith. And I was really excited to hear that. And I'm really glad that she's coming to English Club too. And then one guy who was like, I think that I see God as this person who I'm constantly running away from, but is constantly pursuing me and won't let me get away, won't let me escape him. I was like, oh, that's a really interesting description. I hope I can, follow up with him on that in a little bit. Some of them were a little weird, like they see God as like a Buddhist kind of life force, which, okay. But at the beginning, it was really interesting how open and how honest they all were. And I'm hoping that when I go back to Russia, I can see them again and kind of follow up on some of these discussions with them. So it's just always an interesting group. And we always have such interesting discussions. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. We just have just about a minute left, but what has been your cultural experience? What's fun about learning such a different culture?
In 60 seconds or less.
It's fine.
The time I told them that I was trying to tell them how my name would be in Russian, and I accidentally told them that I am the daughter of a carrot instead of. I mean, just the things where you.
That is excellent.
That's fantastic.
But you know what? It's really fun because you laugh and they laugh and then you're better friends after that, hopefully. I don't know.
What was the story one time about the monkey? They said monkey instead of towel at the hotel. They
need a monkey.
Yes.
Yeah. That was great too.
I love the cultural learning experiences.
That's right.
Always adventures.
For sure.
Alyssa Anders, serving the Lord in Russia. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. How can we follow you and keep up with where you're serving, how you're serving?
Yep. I know there is a page of information about me on the LCMS website. If you go to the missionary section and search for Alyssa Anders. Also, I have a monthly newsletter, which you can probably find my email address on said page on the website, and send me an email and just say you'd like to be added to my newsletter list. Other than that, you can pray for me because that requires no email address or phone number. God knows who I am, I think.
LCMS.org/Anders, the easiest way to find you. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.